Today's presentation is on the screen, and so this is our just colleagues from one of the biggest Norwegian universities, Støckert and Talmo Mjøsund. Something like that. Yeah, I tried. I did my best. Okay, so it will be a kind of workshop. You're going to use your iPhones because they're going to demonstrate how do they implement mobile devices into their teaching process.
Okay. Привет, and спасибо for having us here in Russia. I said when we got there on Tuesday, I said that I was going to spend these 3 days on learning Russian, so that I could speak Russian when I go back tomorrow. But I'm not gonna, I think. In the same way that you're not gonna be expert teachers using our system during the next 50 minutes. We're gonna show you a system that we created at the University College in Trondheim. And you're gonna experience how it feels to be students using that system, at least. And get a feel of it. And then afterwards we can take questions and we can maybe show you how you can start using it on your own and becoming even better. If there are any questions during these 50 minutes, please ask them, okay? Don't be afraid to stop me and ask questions. Okay, so we're going to start. What we're going to do today is this. We're going to start by explaining a little bit what is a student response system and what differs our response system from earlier ones. Okay. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how to get started. Not very technical. We don't have time to go into everything that lies behind. But as I said in the plenary, technology is just there for us to use. The technology isn't that interesting. It's the way we use it that matters. But a little bit just how to get started. You're going to get some iPods to borrow so that you can use it. And we're going to give you some tips and some tricks. If you want to, as a teacher, as a lecturer, want to start using the system, what is the best way to get started? What should you do? Or what do we think that you should do? I will say this many times, I think. We only present some solutions. We don't present the right way to do it. There are several ways to utilize the system. But we present what we have found in our research is what the students like, okay? And then we're going to have some exercises all through the demonstration. And it's very unnatural to be here because normally I would stand here doing it on a smartboard, but we're going to do it like this. Student response systems are nothing new. It's been around since the 80s. Probably many of you have seen the clicker systems, where you get like a Mentimeter button or something, you hand it out in the beginning of class and you take it in at the end of the class. A student response system is nothing new. And student response systems are normally made to create some kind of interaction, some kind of dynamics in the classroom. The same with our system. The thing that is new with SRS, as we call it, is that we don't use clickers. We don't have to buy a lot of systems. We don't have to push a lot of buttons. We don't have to put everything up on the internet up front of the lecture. We utilize students' own handheld devices. Most of you probably have a tablet or a smartphone or something, or at least you have a PC or a Mac. Anything that can connect to the internet can be used when we use this system. Which means that it's way cheaper, for example, for all institutions to start using this because the students have their own devices instead of the faculty of the university buying a lot of clickers, which is expensive. Okay, what we like about this system is that we try to get more responses from the students. In the beginning, many of you teach, don't you? All of you, probably? Yeah. And you often have groups from 50 students to 200 students? No? Smaller? 30? 20?
10,
10, 15, okay.
It's a language class.
Yeah, okay. In our university college, we my groups are around between 40 and 60 students. It's kind of tough when you start studying amongst 40 other people to raise your hand and say, hey, I don't understand this. So how do we as lecturers know that our students know what we are talking about or understand it? We ask. And then people like you or 2 or 3 others out of the 40, they say, yeah, we understand. And then I think, yeah, I'm good, let's move on. And then I continue my lecture, okay? But I don't know if the 40 other people has understood. By using a student response system, you get anonymous feedback immediately, which means that you will know how many people has, or how many of the students has actually understood what we are talking about. That's the kind of response that is very useful for a teacher, at least I feel. We also create a lot of communication through discussions, through involvement, through engagement, which means that the students actually start discussing, in my class, literature. And these are guys in the early 20s that are interested in mathematics and physics. And they start to discuss novels. Because they get opportunities instead of just listening to me, talking the whole time, they start to discuss with each other. And that again creates a lot of interaction between me as a teacher and the students. So that's the main goal of using a student response system. This is how our system looks like. Can you see this, everyone? This is the teacher interface. We will see this afterwards. Okay? I'll go on this side, I think. This is the teacher interface. This is what we see. And you don't need a smartboard. Like now we use a projector. You can only have it on your computer if you want to. You can utilize a blackboard, a whiteboard, a smartboard, whatever. But when you see on your computer, or in this case on the projector, this is what I see as a teacher. This is what the students see and what you will see afterwards. This is the first page on the iPod where you log in, but we have done that for you. This is the voting page. This is when you have voted, and this is the leaving page. Okay? So this is how it looks like, and we're getting back to it later. And forward. Yeah, we'll take this first. I always feel like a kindergarten teacher when I start with this, because you probably all know how to wake up an iPod, don't you? You do like this, you push the button down there, and then you flip it over, and then it's open. When you have it, we have put, if afterwards when you get iPods, if you ever get out of the system, it's very easy, because in the bottom you have this logo with Moscow underneath. So if you ever get to this page, you just hit the small button down on the page, and then you're back into the system, okay? So you don't have to worry about anything else than that. So you wake up the iPod, push the slider to the side, and then you tap the SRS icon. Then you will get into this page, where you're asked to type a current session code, which you will get afterwards, or which we have prepared. You take the code, and then enter code, and type go. When you have typed go, you're into the system, and it looks like this. System is ready for use. Please wait for the voting to start. And then you put it away, because I'm still the boss, I'm still the teacher. So, and this is kind of, everybody's always afraid, yeah, if they get to bring their smartphones or their tablets or anything into class and use them, then they'll be on Facebook or Twitter or chatting on MSN or something. But that's my job. I'm going to give them enough tasks, enough to do during the lesson, and I'm going to use the system enough times during the lesson so that they don't have time or they don't find it interesting to be on it doing something else. Okay, that's the goal. Okay, should we try it? Robin, can you help me?
Yes.
So, now you just wake the iPod, push the slider to the side, and then you're ready. You have? Okay, that's mine. This time we can show you afterwards how to get it on your own phone. But this time we put up our own server. So we brought everything. Everything is pre-made, which means that we don't utilize the wireless here at the university. I hope you have enough.
Yeah,
You speak French. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Do you understand English?
we can use, if you got any technical questions regarding servers or anything, just ask me.
Yes, now we're using this one.
Yep.
So later, will be able for us to use our own?
Yeah, yes, but at the same time. Just but I can show you how to log in if you want to use your own. I can show you.
Gotcha, okay, wait.
And what Robin is explaining is that we, like I said, we put everything into our computer. And so we have the server and we have the router and everything in our own system. So our computer only connects to these iPods. You guys won't be able to connect to our router through your own devices. But we can show you afterwards how to do it. It's very simple. You can actually, 15 minutes after being here, you can download a free test and work it on your own computer if you want. But we'll get to that. Everybody got an iPod? Everybody knows how to get in? Then let the whole thing begin. We normally, this is what we do in this beginning of the class. You don't have to prepare a lot. Normally we like to prepare the questions up front, but you don't have to. You can take the question on the fly and just make it into a quiz. But what we normally do, what I do when I start class, I go into the classroom, as usual. I start my SRS system, just clicking a button, logging in, and then it will look like this when the students arrive. Okay? And this is the current session code, which we have already entered for you. If you look on the bottom of the blue, it says SAD. That's the current session code. We need a current session code because that means that you are only participating in my vote. If you take something else, then you might vote for somebody in another room, or another institution, or in Hungary, or Romania, or something. And that is not good. So this connects you to my session. Okay, then I start teaching. Then I have my normal lecture. Blah, 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 blah. Language is good. Read books. Blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, if I haven't prepared it, then somebody asks, yeah, but why should I read this book? And then instead of me saying, read it because it's good, I can translate it, for example, into a question. And I put up on the smartboard, why should I read Fyodor Dostoevsky? Alternative A, because you become a good person, and so on, yeah. And then I say, okay, wake your iPods, log in, or actually the students are always logged in because at our faculty, 17 out of 21 teachers are using this system every day, every lecture. So all our students know this. So they get into the classroom, they see SAG, they put it in, put away their iPods, and then they're ready. So when I say, okay, let's have a quiz, and they take out their devices, log on, and they're ready to go. And I present the question, the assignment, and then, depending on what I want out of it, I give them time to discuss, or I just start the vote. The students vote, I get the results immediately, and then I comment what is correct, what is incorrect. Then I take it away, and I continue my lecture. This means you don't have to use a lot of time on this. You can spend like 1 or 2 minutes on each quiz, or you can spend 45 minutes. Which we as language teachers often do because we like to talk, but yeah. But now, let's try it. As long as this is up, you won't be able to do anything else. Our system lays on top of whatever kind of program that is running underneath. Whether it's a PowerPoint, it's a Word document, or whatever you have, our system lays on top of it. So you have to close it before you can continue your PowerPoints. But now we get into a quiz. Just easy, warm up, okay? Here's the quiz. What is your favorite day of the week?
If
Is
you
it
have
A?
problems, just ask me and I will help you to start it up.
Yeah.
That's correct. System is ready for use. The blue screen should be there. Opposite that of Microsoft, we should have a blue screen. Yeah, that's correct.
Everyone's in? So, what's your favorite day of the week? A, Monday, B, Tuesday, C, Wednesday, and so on. You get the grip.
Yeah, correct. Blue screen is
No, you don't have options yet, because I'm still the boss. So I decide when you can start voting. And this is kind of a clue, because once again, some of our students are very computer literate. So they're like ready. But then we have some, for example, 40-year-old
It's not French.
guys
If you understand.
coming from the industry, and they have never seen an iPod before. So it's important for me as a teacher to actually ask, is there anyone that's not logged in? And I always ask, is there anyone that's not logged in? Because then it's easier to say, instead of saying, is it anyone that's, or is everybody logged in? Once again, it's difficult to raise your hand and say, I don't understand this. It's easier if I ask, do you have problems? I can help you. And then I can start. And since this is the first, we're just gonna run the vote. I got 7 options going down there. Then I start the clock. Now you will get your and now you choose your favorite day of the week. And you can change your mind as many times as you want until I stop the vote. Can you hear the sound? Our students also can hear this every day, every lesson. And it's starting to get a bit depressive now, so we're going to change the sound to next year. Okay, so now the 20 seconds has gone. I have my results, which I can't do like that. I have results. If you see down here, there are 24 people that has voted, which is about correct. And you can see.
Oh, sorry. I was going to even to see.
And you can see what they have voted. But I cannot see what you voted. This is anonymous, which means that instead of having the 5 same people answering every question all the time, you actually get the votes from everybody in the classroom, which I think is a big, big advantage. Because it's anonymous. And our experience, our research, show that between 90 and 95% of the students attending the class is answering every vote. And that is high. And then the last 5 or 10% is probably because they forgot their phone, or it's out of battery, or some maybe fall asleep, I don't know. But we're not quite sure about the last 5 or 10%, but still 90% instead of 5 out of 60, we're happy about it. So what you normally should do as a teacher now is you go through, okay, most of you think that Friday is the best day of the week, which is correct, so then we can move on. No, but one of the clues is that on this question is nothing to explain, this is just your opinion. But normally we would say something about all the alternatives that has been pointed out or that has been chosen, just to explain why they are incorrect, which is very important. We'll get back to it later. But that was an easy one. We'll take one more, which is a bit worse. You don't have to do anything with your iPod, okay? The question is, why do you attend this conference at Lommonosov, Moscow State University? Alternative A, it sounded interesting. Alternative B, I was told to go by my boss. C, I like Russia, I like Moscow. D, I present something at the conference. Or E, I really do not know.
And remember, it's anonymous.
Yeah, it's anonymous. You can do whatever you want. Now, since this is the second quiz, I'm going to show a little bit about what me as a teacher, what kind of options I have, okay? So, when I pull out this, I have a lot of, I'll have to stand. I have some options here. This is the one that we use most often, run mode. This is the one that starts the vote, okay? So we're going to look into that afterwards. You can also go into and look at the previous results on the same session code, which can be useful. For example, if you use a peer learning method that we're going to talk a little bit about afterwards, then you need to have two results or two columns next to each other, two different votes. If you want to, you can redirect all the votes into some kind of web solution like Google Docs or anything, so that you can get all the results into another format if you want. You can go into the history, we can do that, and there you can see that all the sessions, all the votes that has ever been done on this server. And you can go into it and analyze it, and you can find, if you lose votes that you want to have, you can find it in history. And you can configure, that's just changing colors and everything, you can never do that. And then exit if you want to leave. When you go into the run votes, you also have some opportunities. In this case, it's A till E, and you find the button with how many alternatives you want, right here. Now it's A to E, okay? You can have up to 20 alternatives in the system. If you want to hide your results, if that's the point, if you want to have discussion afterwards, you just hide the results from the vote, like this. Now you won't get the columns, but you can afterwards go into history and have both. If you want to run the second vote afterwards, then you just click it back on, and then you will have both votes, both the last votes. You can turn off the sound, which we aren't allowed to, according to all theory and all research, but what we do it anyways because it's kind of annoying after a year. Sometimes we do, but the sound is quite important because whenever the students hear the sound, if they've been awake, if they've been sleeping a little bit or they've been thinking about something else, they hear that. Then, oh, it's voting, I have to, and then they get attention once again. So we need the sound. You can decide how much time you want to give. It's set on 20 seconds as default, because our experience showed that 20 seconds is more than enough to actually hit one button. It should be enough. But you can set it for how many minutes you want. And you can also take off the clock and just say, okay, this is interesting, let's discuss it. And afterwards, we can have a vote when we finish discussing. But we're gonna have time. And you can also have the opportunity that you can answer, or more than one alternative can be correct. And I guess in this quiz, it might be more than one alternative that is correct. So I'm going to do like this and say that you are allowed to answer more than one of the 5 alternatives, okay? And then we're ready to run the votes.
Can I put a question?
Yeah.
With 1 plus, what does it mean? If it means that
All 5.
2 or all 5?
Yeah. You can have, we're going to have a little bit of a problem when it gets up, but I can show it when you get the results, why I don't use it that much. But in this case, it's obvious that you have the opportunity to answer more than one. I would have answered more than one. I would have answered at least 4, I think. And what you also see is that you have the opportunity to pause whenever you want. So now, I think it's okay to pause now so that I could answer the question, and when I push this again, you probably are finished, and then I can just stop it and get the results. No, because I removed it. There we are. This is the correct one, the blue one is correct. This came because I took off the results and then I had to take it back again. So never mind this, just focus on the blue ones. So we can see that most of you actually think that this sounded interesting. And that is good. Or maybe not this session, by the way. The conference at least. Yeah.
And is it possible to know if people
Have answered.
chosen to? Or
No, that's the problem I was talking about. This indicates something else. I don't know. In this case, it's 39 people that has given an answer, and you're only 24 with iPods in the room.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the question.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
39 answers. So
Yeah.
you know how many answers
Yeah.
have
But
been-
that means that
Yeah, well.
some of you answered more than
Mhm.
twice. But it might still be interesting to see, okay, this is the spread. Most of you think it sounds interesting. Some of you present something, or a lot of you actually. There's not so many who did like Russia and Moscow. That's weird. And only one, I think, that don't know where they're headed. And only a few that are told by their boss. So it might be interesting. But you could, of course, force the students to only answer the most important one. But it's still quite interesting that you're asking, because this is the whole point. This is just technology. It's the questions that decide whether or not this is going to be a good system. And this is maybe a bad question, because all 5 alternatives can be correct, and then it's no point. And if you ask a yes/no question, that might be boring for the students. Are you from Russia? Yes, no. What's the point? So the questions decide if it's going to be a success or not. Okay, we'll move on. What we see as benefits, and for me as a teacher, I've been teaching for 9 years at University College, and I always thought that my class, everybody's talking. It's a lot of communication, a lot of response. Everybody's happy sometimes. So I was a bit afraid a year ago when I started using this, because I thought this is gonna lower the atmosphere in my classroom. I thought it's gonna be too structured. But what I see is that giving my lecture structure by knowing that, okay, in 10 minutes I'm gonna have a quiz. I have to teach, or I have to talk about this the next 10 minutes, because then I'm gonna quiz them. That actually helps me to become a better teacher. And I get a lot of response, I get a lot of answers. And if I ask a quiz question after 20 minutes, and I see that 40% of my students didn't understand what I was talking about the first 20 minutes, then I can't continue. Then I skip the last 20 minutes, I go back and repeat what I was saying in the beginning. I have to. I think I have to. Because otherwise they will fail in their exams. 40% of the students, that's not good. Then you better take it back later sometime. I get a lot of participation. And in language courses, at least when you teach like literature, it's not a big problem to get a lot of participation from the students. But if you go to mathematics or physics, it's more difficult. But what we see at our university college, after using this for 3 years now, is that even in the classes of mathematics, the students are discussing more and participating more than they did before. And we have a PhD that has more than 200 hours of video that is analyzing every student, what they're saying, and how long they speak with SRS or without SRS. And it's totally clear. If we use this system, they speak for a longer period of time about the subject. So we get a lot of participation. This is very dynamic. You can use it, like I've pre-made all the questions on a PowerPoint. No problem. But I could also, if I have a good question, I could just take PowerPoint away, write it on a blackboard or something, then that's a quiz question. If you use like voltmeter or something that's on the internet already for free, which works, which is good, but you have to put in the question and the alternatives and what is correct and what is incorrect in front of the class, which means that you lose a lot of the dynamic in the classroom. And it's flexible, it works with whatever kind of devices, whatever kind of questions, whatever kind of subjects, whatever kind of students, whatever kind of class. So that's the benefits for the teacher. We have a lot more research on the students because we've been interviewing students for 3 years now, and we've been doing questionnaires and surveys for 3 years. And what they say as the main points, what they think is good about the system, the benefits, are the participation, that they actually can raise their voice and be heard, and that the teacher actually goes back and repeats or explains why something was wrong or correct. That is important for them. They get the correction, and they don't only get the correction that, no, you're wrong. They get the correction that you're wrong because you forgot to think about tense, for example, when you invented that verb. And then, of course, and then they think about it next time, and they do it correct, hopefully. So they get the positive correction. Cooperation, it's easier for them to actually start talking to the student next to them and actually learn something from their peers. So they start to discuss and they start to cooperate about subjects. And it actually raises their attention. They get more aware of what we're talking about. At least they claim that. It's not always that we are agreeing with them, but still. We'll have another quiz, because this is interesting before we move on. Quiz 3. How familiar are you with the concept of student response systems? Alternative A, not at all. I've never used such a system. B, slightly familiar. I've heard about it. C, somewhat familiar. I've used such systems a few times. Or D, you're an expert. Yeah, in general. For you. Are you very familiar? You not this system particularly, but in general, student response systems. Well, run vote. A, B, C, D. 20 seconds, nothing else is wrong, is it? Yeah. And now it should pop up, A, B, C, D. Yes, 22 votes. And we can see that most of you have heard about student response systems, but probably never used them. Never used them in class, probably. Maybe looked into it in some way. And 10 of you have never ever heard about student response systems before. And this is quite normal, actually, when we have these demonstrations and workshops. The columns are usually on that side. Because before, in the early 80s, when we started, or when the student response systems were built the first time with the clickers, and they still are, they're extremely expensive. And it's also very, you have to hand them out, take them in, take them to class. So it's not that many people, at least not probably not in Russia or in Europe, that has used them before. It has been big in the States for the last 10-15 years, but it hasn't gone through in Europe quite yet, I think. So, but then our system is the first you hear about. That is good, probably. If you want to start using this, any kind of student response system, or at least ours, we think there are some rules or ground rules that you should do to make this work appropriately. I have to say, you don't always succeed. I've used it for a year, and I've had questions. I've had a lot of classes, a lot of lectures where the students are like, why are you asking this? What's the point? And when I go out, I think, that didn't work at all. But that happens. That happens even if you don't use a student response system, doesn't it? We have bad lectures sometimes. Or maybe some of you don't. I have. But to make this work, you have to create some kind of environment for the students to actually participate in using the system. So we think it's vital that you have some sort of introduction to the students. That you explain them, why should we use this? Why not only have normal lectures? Why do I believe that this will make my teaching better? Because if you explain that to the students, they will understand and they will be positive. They want to try it. And it's also, I'm not a technology geek at all. I don't have a lot of iPads and iPods and gadgets and stuff. So I'm not afraid either to tell my students that I don't know anything about the system. I know this. This I know. But what lies behind? Don't have a clue. And maybe a little bit, probably a little bit more than you right now, but I don't care either. If it doesn't work, I call somebody and they fix it. And that is, as a joke, we often say that if you're going to use this, the best investment is to buy a Robin, for example. Somebody to run around and fix. But in a year, and I have 8 hours every week, this class, and I've used it almost every lecture, the whole year, and I've experienced trouble with it 2 times in a year. So it's starting to get very stable. We're rebuilding it now this summer in Serbia, so we're getting it even more stable, even better, I think. It works, but that is vital, at least for us language teachers, technology. If it doesn't work, we hate it. But tell the students, okay, if it doesn't work, then we'll try once again. And if it still doesn't work, then we'll have a normal lecture. Doesn't matter. We'll just talk about it then. The way you start up, as you can see, I always read the whole question. I always read the alternatives, and I always ask, is anybody not logged on? That is quite important. Getting them logged on to SAG, start up, and then read the whole question. So that people with reading or writing disabilities, for example, they can actually follow the question. Ask them if they're not logged on, because then it's easier to say, yeah, instead of saying, I don't understand it. So when you start up, be consequent and be sure about what you're doing, and have some kind of idea why you're doing it. And then the questions. If you have a bad question, it doesn't matter if you use iPods or iPads or videos or anything. Bad questions doesn't work in the classroom. It's as simple as that. Which means that in the beginning, it might be a bit more difficult to create the good questions before you go into class to have a quiz. But that's just training. That's our job. That's what we're good at. Making good questions. But what kind of questions? The students are unanimously saying that they want open-end questions. They want questions with no solution, or where all the alternatives can be more or less correct, and so on. But me as a teacher, I like also the yes and no questions, because I want to know if you have been following what I've been saying. But the students don't like them. They think it's a waste of time. But both from the teacher and from the student point of view, the questions are important. When do you use SRS? 100 different varieties. Some use it when they start a class to repeat what they talked about the day before, just to see, okay, did they remember? Are they getting on? Some, like me, I use it after like 15, 20 minutes, just to give them a little break from my lecture. Some give them in the end of class, just as a repetition question. And we are also researching, what about sending out an SMS with an SRS quiz in the afternoon, the day before the lecture, just to get them started. And so that I, as a teacher, can come to work at 8 o'clock and I can see the columns straight away and see, is it any point that I do this lecture, or should I do something else? And then closure. and I'll get back to closure afterwards. I'm starting to run out of time, I think. But, and this is, I've been a bit nervous about this one. But I'm going to try it anyways. Quiz 4, since we're language people. In Russian, the word pronounced kaka. Is that correct? Kaka? Kaka. That's, I've heard at least, a Russian friend told me that that is like a general word for something for shite, is it?
Usually for very small kids. Okay, don't touch this.
It's kaka. Okay, but you understand it, the Russian people at least. But what does kaka, written like this and pronounced like kaka, mean in Norwegian? Is it A, a general word for something bad? B, some kind of meat? C, some sort of cake? Or D, going out to eat? And we'll run votes for alternatives. Yeah. I'll just pause it.
If you have any problems, I will help you. Yeah.
Is it okay?
Okay. Cancel. Rouse and wants to vote. It's working.
I wasn't quite. Yeah, I'll take it out.
You want to discuss?
Okay, I'm ending it there. Hopefully everybody has voted. Okay, so the majority thinks that kaka in Norwegian means some sort of cake. There are one a little one that thinks, oh, it's the same, it's just a joke question. But it's actually not. It doesn't, kaka doesn't mean some general word for something like that. And it's not some kind of meat either. So you are actually correct. Kaka,
Yes.
in Norwegian, is some sort of cake. So if you go to Norway and you want something sweet to eat, you say kake or kaka. Then you'll get a cake. I was a bit, this question, I've been using all my time up until Moscow on this question because I had some other words, but I was told not to bring them. Talk about them later, maybe. Okay, we have to move on. Very quickly. Once again, like I said, we don't have the correct answer. Our ways to do it might not be the correct way for you guys to do it, okay? We do it in 100 different ways, depending on each teacher. But what we've been doing, we have 2 PhDs working with this now, and they have been researching, and the one that is finished this September has been researching the difference between what we call a classic methodology and a pair learning or pair instruction methodology. The classic one is what we've been doing now. We give a quiz question, and then we put it together. You have a group discussion, and then you have an individual vote, and then we have the closure, where we explain which alternatives are correct or incorrect. That is one way to do it. The other way that we've been looking at is pair instruction. Right, sorry. Det var ikke meningen, men der er vi igjen. Pair instruction. You give them a quiz question. They work on their own. Then they vote by themselves. You don't show the results, but instead of showing the results, you put them together in a group, and then they can start discussing, trying to defend their alternative. And they always, almost always, try to defend it by using curriculum. And that's quite amazing. They don't just say, yeah, I'm bigger than you, so I'm correct. They say, but this is correct because. That's quite amazing. And then they do an individual vote once again, and we show both results, and then we do the closure. And the reason why I wrote this is because we have a lot of research on this. So the next quiz It was a workshop, so you have to do a lot of quizzes, okay? The next quiz, which method do the students prefer? And you're allowed to talk to the person next to you, but you're going to vote individually. Is it classical, peer instruction? Are they equally interested in both? Or alternative D, which you almost always should have? You don't know. Don't have a clue. So if you want to, you can use like 15 seconds to talk to the guy or girl next to you. Or you can, no.
I think peer instruction. And I think it's more interactive.
Classic. The first method. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I should
Yeah, teacher, they can discuss something. Just you discuss.
That's my choice.
Yeah, yeah. See, right?
And then if I had speakers, you would have heard ting, 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 ting. So that means that me as a lecturer, I'm saying that, okay, now it's time to vote. So A, classic or classical, B, pure instruction, C, equally fan of both, or D, I don't know. Is there anybody that is not logged in, that need help? No? Wow. So, actually the most of you, 8 people, think that they like the peer instruction the most. Almost as many of you think that they are equally fan of both. And some think that classic is best, and some honestly don't know, which is good. This is actually the results, because we asked the students, and this is the results. Which method do you prefer, classic or peer instruction? And as you can see, the two columns, the white column is girls, the blue column is boys, but the girl column is almost not interesting because that's only 2 people. 5 minutes. Ah, okay. But they do prepare peer instruction. Okay, but then I'm told that we have to finish, which means that we do like this. If you want to learn more about this, if you want to look into it even more, you can go to this webpage, hisprojects.no. You can also find a lot of leaflets outside, both with SRS and with a lot of the other projects that we're working on within the European Union. We're here, so you can grab a hold of us if you want to talk to us and ask more.
And the software is free.
Yeah.
The first version. You can register and use it yourself.
You'll find it on, we can show you, but you will find it on hisproject.no. If you go there, you can find on products, SRS, and download the free version. But
Don't forget to cover.
yeah. No, we have we're getting thrown now. So thank you so much for attending and have a wonderful day at the conference.
Thank you so much.
No, it's okay. It's just yeah, we didn't start until
Yeah, I know, but somebody. Thank you so
it's
much.
okay. We'll just
Дорогие коллеги, пожалуйста, прошу вас остановиться в позициях, потому что тоже люди сидят, уже тоже волнуются и беспокоятся. Так что, пожалуйста, наполняйте теперь другие.
Well, 2 years ago.